action anime. There are tons of them in the anime industry, and I'm sure that at one point in our lives we've come across that one action anime that made us go, holy shit, this animation is insane and the story is also pretty good. Now after watching tons of anime, I pondered the question of what might be the worst action anime out there, so I did some research and I found it. That show is Exam. Yes, Exam is the lowest rated action anime on my anime list and has a rating of 2.95, which is horrendous even compared to the second and third lowest rated action anime, and the difference in rating is enormous. It also happens to be that the studio animating the show had never worked on an actual anime project before, and from the reviews of the show, they didn't exactly hit a home run. So today, I will be discussing about this ugly duckling, going over the plot, characters, why the manga got cancelled, and also if whether this anime has a saving grace or not. Now without wasting any more time, let's jump right into it. Now I'm going to assume that almost all of you watching this video haven't actually seen the show, because why would you, right? And to those that have seen the show, I can only give you my condolences. In the year 2014, a high school student who hates machines, Akira Natsume, who wants to change himself for the better and tries to take the first step in doing that, but then he gets run over by a truck and sadly he doesn't get transported to another world. Fast forward to 2030, he awakes to find himself inside a machine following a 16-year-long coma, and that too inside a powerful machine. His brain is contained inside a device called an Exam, a weapon of mass destruction. There are multiple Exams around the world and all with the unique abilities which are extremely dangerous if left in the wrong hands. Akira meets the other members of the X-Arm Countermeasure Prevention Team, a police division working to mitigate the effects of Exams. While initially reluctant to fight, Akira soon recalls his brother's words from before the accident.
Akira, とにかく一歩を踏み出すことだ。変わりたいと思ったならな。
The memory inspires him to take action, possessing Alma's body to fight his opponents, and though he doesn't always use Alma's body, but when he does use, the activation method for him to be able to possess Alma is one of the most ridiculous ways I've seen in all of anime, and that is, two specific girls must give each other a smooch. Alright, moving on. Witnessing the atrocities committed by those who seek the power of Exams, he resolves to join the team and put an end to the terror caused by these weapons, and also to destroy his rival who looks like him and is basically his evil twin. I look back and remember that certain shows do have an obviously poor anime adaptation of their original source material, but at least you can somewhat enjoy them since they are okay. But Exam is a whole different story. If you compare this to its source material, which is its manga, they don't look anything alike. The manga is decent and is your typical action sci-fi series, but the anime not only adapts it poorly, it even skipped out certain characters which were relevant to the story. The plot of the show isn't anything grandiose and is pretty straightforward like a lot of shonen series, and I say that in a positive way. As with a lot of shonen anime, animation is one of the most important factors in what makes an action anime, and though this is not always the case, it is a pretty huge factor. Exam is probably one of the top 5 worst animated shows out in the anime industry, and that is probably the biggest factor as to why this show performed so poorly, and I can't blame you for not even giving the show a try. Back at the end of 2020, when the first trailer of the show had released, people instantly knew that this was going to be a special show and not in a good way. Fun fact, the director of Exam didn't want to hire staff that knew about the animation production pipeline, and instead he wanted staff members that he knew from his live action background who don't even specialize in the anime style, and as a result of that you are forced to watch these horrendous CG models move in action, awful background visuals and terrible animation. I don't exactly know why the director made these choices, and we might never know why, but it could be that they wanted to use the knowledge that they already possess instead of learning and understanding the appeal of anime art styles. A lot of subtle details and expressions can be lost when you're relying on CG models, and if it's done wrong, it can come back to haunt you, as with the case with Exam. All you have to do is look at the illustrations that were drawn by the mangaka at the end of the episodes and also halfway throughout the show to know of how good the characters could have looked if it was adapted properly. When comparing this to the manga, the biggest difference which I personally noticed is the lack of tense moments, which can be found plenty in its source material, but because of these horrible models and awful visuals that were being shown in the anime, a lot of those tense moments just couldn't be felt. Comparing this scene with the manga just makes it look vastly different in the anime, and the vibes they both are giving off are also completely different. It's not as if the tense feeling had completely disappeared, and it was more like the anime was building up to a certain moment, but later on that feeling disappears away without you feeling any satisfaction. The anime totally removes your immersion from the show, and honestly speaking, how can you even get immersed or take interest in a show that has such dull visuals, skips tons of world building, and doesn't even have proper fight sequences? You might have noticed by now that this show actually had the guts to integrate 2D and 3D animation side by side despite its low animation quality. The whole time I was watching the show, it looked so bizarre when characters from two separate dimensions interacted. I'm not going to go too deep into what went wrong with this show, as there is already a video on YouTube made by the Kanipa Effect which provides more of an in-depth breakdown, so check it out if you want after this video. If there was one thing that the show had going for itself, it would be the voice acting on its cast. Exam's cast is made up of some pretty popular voice actors, or seiyus as it's more popularly known in Japan. The main protagonists, Akira, Alma and Minami, have been voiced by Soma Saito, Akari, Kito and Mikako Komatsu respectively, all of whom are pretty popular seiyus and made the show just a tad bit more enjoyable and bearable to watch, because if it wasn't for that, I don't know how I would have completed the entirety of the show. The supporting characters in the show also had pretty popular seiyus behind them, and it's really a shame that despite the show having big voices behind the role, the anime didn't do them justice. Now speaking of the characters, none of them had any depth to them at all, and because of that it made the show even harder to understand and follow. Even if the animation quality is not up to the standard in a quote-unquote bad anime, if the characters are properly written and their stories are explained correctly, then that can somewhat save the show and vice versa. X-Arm introduces a lot of new characters in a short amount of time, and that makes it really hard to follow what's going on and what is their actual motive / goal for being here, and later on in the next episode they might not even be there and just randomly disappear. Let's take the commander of the X-Arm countermeasure prevention team as an example. He was shown a lot in the first half of the show as he was a key member of that team, but it seems that a lot of his dialogue got cut from the original source material, and when he dies later on in the show, that depth is missing, which makes you go, what the heck, how did this happen? If there was one aspect of the show that I would like improved, it would obviously be the animation, but apart from that, I also wish that the plot had actually explained a lot of the things going on. If I had to describe X-Arm, it would be something like a road trip, but the only difference being that in a road trip, you can stop midway between your journey and explore new areas before heading to your final destination, and that wasn't there in the anime. Instead of actually slowing down to explain what's going on, the show gave the bare minimum explanation and made the viewer figure it out on their own, and I feel that is one of the biggest problems that this show has. I already told how good the voice acting is of the show, but there is one more aspect of this anime that I enjoyed, and that would be their opening and ending theme songs. For a show this disappointing, it had banger opening and ending theme songs. The soundtracks being played in the background were decent enough, which made the show a bit more bearable to watch. It was also announced that the X-Arm manga has been cancelled, and even though the reasons behind it hasn't been declared yet, it's pretty easy to guess why that is. This is one of those cases where the manga got unnecessary backlash due to the anime's bad CG and everything else, but regardless of that, I'm here to tell you that you should give the source material a try before making up your mind that this isn't for you. Does X-Arm deserve to be known as the lowest rated action anime and the worst anime of all time? Yes. Hopefully in the coming times there won't be a show that is just as bad as this, if not worse, and I really hope that this doesn't become one of those poorly aged things in the future. For most bad animes, you would point out to one specific thing that you disliked, like the story, characters, etc. But for X-Arm, there is barely anything to like. That's it for now, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more content in the future. As always, I'll see you next time.